Alright, I'm going to wrap this up. Now, at one point in your video, you say something that I think is really important. You say that the foundation of the Venus Project, the #1 question that they need to answer is, what do people need? I totally agree with this, at least in the sense that it is vital. If you're going to have a society that says, we promise to give you whatever you need, then yes, you have to delineate what that is exactly. Now, the Venus Project has in common with all the utopian socialist societies, and you want to say it's not socialism or Marxism, fine, but they all promise the same thing. They say, we'll give you whatever we need. Now, this is something I realized over the years of talking to people like yourself, is they say you'll get whatever you need, and then you ask, well, what do people need? And they'll usually say, they'll list off a couple things. It depends who you ask what those couple things will be, but they'll say, well, like healthcare and shelter and food, and they might say vacation or leisure, or there's a varying list. Well, the thing is, those are all fairly abstract and indefinite things. Food could be a pasty gruel that tastes like oatmeal that has all the calories you need to keep you from dying and vitamins or whatever, or it could be a steak and sirloin and caviar and fresh fruit and whatever. And you ask, and a lot of that stuff, not everyone can eat a steak. There isn't enough land to cultivate to give everybody every kind of imaginable food. There's only so much vanilla. There's lots of rare foods that can't be mass-produced on a mass scale, and at the same time produce everything else. You can't say we're going to have enough of everything to give everybody whatever they might want. So you can't say we'll have enough orchards of oranges to give everybody all the orange juice they can drink, and all the lemons they could drink, and all this that they could drink, and all that. No. There isn't enough. There isn't enough land. There isn't, even if we have ways of extending land, which there are ways to do that, there's not enough surface area on the earth to do that. And it would be grossly inefficient. Say you could. Let's cover the whole planet in apple orchards and all. Then you'd have way excess capacity of one or the other. So the point I should be driving at here is that after the years of asking people, and I always get a different answer. Different socialists will tell me different things are needs. Different Marxists will tell me different things are needs. Talking to different Venus Project people, they give me different lists. And just to say, well, food, healthcare, and shelter, those aren't homogeneous goods. Those are concepts of very broad categories. Healthcare, for instance. Does that mean everybody who wants to gets all the plastic surgery they want? All the elective surgery that they want? I have a friend in Iceland, as I pointed out before. He likes to work out at the gym all the time. He wants to take steroids. And he wants very intensive healthcare regimen, far more than the average person. Is everybody entitled to that? What if somebody says, well, I'd rather have less resources go into my healthcare and instead have a much nicer home? And again, home. How much of a home can we... how much of a home is in need? We'll all get one hammock in a barracks? Or do we each get a Taj Mahal, or do we each get a house on a beach? We can't all have a house on a beach. We can't all have a house on a 1-acre island. Now, space is limited, and this is the thing, is you say that it's really important that we need needs, but what's the scientific basis for saying we need this and this, but not that and that? I don't see that anywhere, and I ask this question all the time. And I asked it to you, and even though in your video you say it's important, the fact that I asked you to tell me, you didn't do it. All right, you blew it. And you're going to blow it again, because I have a feeling I'm making this video and you won't respond to this question. And please, when you respond, let's not have an arbitrary answer. Let's not say, oh, I like Lex, and I like this kind of food and this kind of food and the Yankees, and this, and I'm happy living in this kind of apartment, and so everyone else is entitled to do that as well. Or if it's not what you personally live in, if you just think, well, I think that people should have this, and this. What's the scientific basis? How is that not arbitrary? Whatever it is that you pick. And this is the trick. I've asked this to Venus Project people, and they give me 2 answers, and both of them are pretty shitty, if you ask me. 1, if you ask for things that the Venus Project can't provide, then you're being greedy and aberrant. What's the basis of calling something greedy? Some people like open ranges. Some people like isolation. Some people like to have a cabin with a lot of land, or a lot of food or whatever. And I say you're being aberrant. That's what Peter Joseph would say. You're being aberrant. You like what I tell you you're supposed to like, or you're being aberrant. then I mean, or they'll say you don't really want it. Now, this is, of course, there's no, you don't have any scientific basis for claiming one like over the other, even the stuff that they say you need to live, because people value their lives differently. I used these examples before. Watch my videos, you'll see them. This is a huge problem for all the societies that promise whatever you need. Need is not a scientific term. Not in the broad category of human flourishing. It might be specific if we said, what does the biology of the human body need in these specific circumstances? We might be able to come up with an answer to that. But there's a bigger question that you can't get around, and that is, how much does the person value that? How valuable is their life? To them, to others. There's no scientific answer to that. That's a purely philosophical question. You know, we need to draw on ethics, and you don't have a system of ethics that tells me this. You have your own arbitrary wishes that you actually are never really explicit about. You never say exactly what the Venus Project people are entitled to in the Venus Project. What if my value is I don't want to live in the Venus Project? What happens then? Oh, you wouldn't want that. And here's the other thing. I mean, you talk about the rise of human civilization. Well, you're not an anthropologist, neither am I, but it's something I've been interested in a lot longer than economics. And I'll tell you something. No anthropologist ever has come up and said, I have discovered what humans actually need. That I have found the list of the things that fulfill humanity. No anthropologist has ever claimed that. They might claim, well, I found one little tiny thing. It's debatable. It's a big deal. There's no consensus at all. I guess so. Who cares about anthropologists? Peter Joseph, you know, he really does know everything. Really. Anthropology, economics, science, everything, engineering. He can do anything. He was discrediting Jesus because he's the true God. Or Jack Fresno. Although I guess they fight over petty things like money. That supposedly is imaginary. You say money is imaginary? I could say my computer's imaginary. It's just resources, right? This is why I criticize the resource-based economy. Not because I don't believe in one, but because I think it's a stupid distinction. Because every economy I can think of is resource-based. Be it socialism, capitalism. The fact that we use money doesn't mean that it's money-based. I mean, if the Venus Project it coordinates its economic activity through a giant computer that people vote in, then I could say, well, Venus Project's not resource-based. It's technology-based. It's based on the computer put in, so it's not a resource-based economy. You're saying that capitalism is not a resource-based economy because it's not based on money. First of all, free market capitalism doesn't say you have to have money. If you want to barter, fine. If you don't want to barter, if you want to live by yourself and produce everything on your own, fine. That's great. That's something you can't do in the Venus Project. Why? Because it requires continental planning. Explicitly requires continental planning. So I could be out minding my own business, and the Venus Project comes and says, listen, we need your land for X, Y, or Z. And if the Venus Project, I mean, here's the other problem with all these stupid philosophies, you know, that promise they're all benevolent and shit. They're not benevolent. They can't work unless everybody agrees. That's never going to happen. What a stupid assumption to have before a society comes into being. Not everyone's going to agree. So what are you going to do with the people who don't agree and whose resources you need? You're going to give up your utopia? You're just I know what's going to happen. Well, it's never going to happen because the Venus Project's never going anywhere. But if it ever came to it, you would say, oh, you know what? They're in the wrong paradigm. They don't know it's for their own good. Send the robots, destroy them. That's what you would say. Or most of them don't. I'm Venus Project people, not Marxist. Venus Project people tell me that when I pose the question to them. And they always think it's a weird question because who would not want to live in our utopia? Oh, I watched Zeitgeist, now I'm convinced. You say I'm stuck in a paradigm. You change your. I mean, you told me that you get your Austrian economics from Alex Jones. Alex Jones is great on the police state. He's not someone to lecture to, get a lecture on Austrian economics from. He's interviewed some people who know about it, but they never even talk. I mean, he interviews like Lou Rockwell and Ron Paul, but they never talk about Austrian economics, at least the theory. But you know all about it because you watch Alex Jones. Well, I watch the Venus Project and Zeitgeist and Endem, and I go to the websites, and I've had lengthy debates where they say, oh, go, look, all the answers are there. And you go read, and, like, It's a joke that you fell for, I guess. And it is a cult. And, I mean, what do you do with the Stradivarius violins? What happens, you know, there's only so much gold and silver that can be mined at any time. We could talk about increasing production, sure. Sure we can. And it's possible. That's possible. So let's say we have the absolute production that the Venus Project is able to produce of any given resource, gold, silver, copper, whatever. Let's say demand goes up. People say, since I have all this leisure, I write a great novel that millions of people really like, and part of this convinces people to go out and buy a certain good or something that demands more gold or silver or copper or something than normal. This is totally normal. This happens all the time. All right, is the Venus Project, what does the Venus Project do? If they increase production, at least temporarily, they're going to have to decrease production someplace else, unless they have a huge amount of unused capital goods, robots or whatever, just sitting idly, in which case they're horribly wasteful. They're going to have to say, okay, well, more people want whatever, SkyX, because of this novel I wrote, or any other number of reasons that are possible to cause a change in demand. And they're going to have to say, well, what are we going to have to cut back on? What's, you know, how do you decide? You know, who gets to live on the beach? Who gets to see Michelangelo's David? We'll just make copies. Well, some people will be satisfied with a copy, and some people won't. And on his birthday, on the 700th anniversary, who gets to see the statue? And why is it fair that Michelangelo's David is in Rome? What if I live in San Francisco? It's not fair that people in Rome get to live right by Michelangelo's David. Like, I want to live in San Francisco, and I want to go see Michelangelo's David every day after school. So that's not fair. So it should be moved to where I live, and they should have to, well, what's finite resources? You said this, but you don't understand it. It has implications. Reality has implications, economic implications. If you want to, well, you don't like that term because it's anything that gets in your way, right? It's just a lie. So I addressed most of the points that you brought up in the video before you made the video. You insulted me, say I'm boring. Here, put up some stupid porn. He's boring. You don't have time because you're on the way to becoming a big YouTuber, which I assume is why you made a response to a Peter Schiff video. You don't have that many subscribers as far as I can tell. If you want to run your YouTube channel the way you do, that's fine. It's your property. At least you have a right, you have an agreement with the property owner to use it in that way. That's fine. But none of those are arguments. Saying that my paradigm is wrong. This is also silly. I'm an anarchist. But, you know, I didn't learn about Rothbard and Mises in public schools. I didn't learn about them in universities. I have friends who are Misesians, and they have econ degrees, and they didn't learn about him in school. They don't teach him in school. They teach that unions save the world, and that government regulation is good, and that capitalism caused monopolies. That's what they teach in schools. You believe all that, but not me. But I guess I'm the one whose paradigm is the wrong. I mean, you're insulting me, but you're not really answering any of the points. I mean, in fact, it's like you're completely ignoring what I say. I mean, here I say that the concentrations of wealth aren't from free market capitalism. You should play the video of me saying that, but then you don't attribute the concentrations to anything else. You just reassert, obviously, it's from David Rockefeller is the king of free markets. That's why they all donate so much money to Ron Paul, by the way, because he's a free market advocate, and all the billionaires on Wall Street, they love free markets, right? And so they give all the money to Ron Paul and not, come on. This is pretty silly at this point, but whatever. I subjectively value it, so there you go.